back to the Dear Monday podcast. I'm your host, TuRhonda Freeman. I am so glad that you're here. We've spent over the last few weeks some time with Allison, the woman who already knows she's leaving her career, but keeps finding reasons to stay. Today, we come back to Erin. You may remember, if you've been here for a while, Erin has been in the middle of a franchise evaluation. She's done the research, she has reviewed the FDD, she's talked to owners who have told her parts that they don't put in the brochure. She's run her own version of the numbers. Erin has a yes that is forming. She can feel it. And I want to say to you that if you're close to an ownership decision, whether that's a franchise, business acquisition, any significant commitment, and something is still making you pause in a way you can't quite name, this episode is for you. Because I want to ask you one question today, and it's not one you'll find in the FDD. The question is, do you actually want the life, or do you just want the decision? Those are not the same things. Here's what I mean by that. There is a version of ownership that lives in the imagination before the commitment is ever made. And it is a compelling vision. It's actually what got you to the discovery process in the first place. It kept you going when the FDD was complex and confusing at times, and the validation calls raised questions you weren't sure how to answer. This is the ownership narrative. It has a specific shape. It centers on the commitment moment, the signing, the announcement, the launch, the version of you on the other side of the decision. It's vivid, it's motivating, it's even exciting at times. And when the hard seasons show up in that picture, the difficult year, the month where the numbers are behind, they're there. But they're abstract, acknowledged, not fully felt, because the imagination hasn't lived inside them yet. Here's the thing, the narrative is not the problem. Without it, nobody would start anything. We need vision. I'm not questioning your desire. I'm asking you to look carefully at what specifically you've been desiring, because the narrative and the life are not the same thing. Let me be direct about the difference. There are two things happening here. It's wanting the decision and wanting the life. Wanting the decision is organized around the commitment moment. It's the signing, it's the relief of getting past the evaluation, the identity of being someone who finally moved, who finally made a decision on something. The imagination is probably most vivid at launch. The first few weeks after you've signed, everything is new and fresh and possible. The hard seasons, you've probably mapped them in your plan, acknowledged but not fully lived, because what was wanted was the decision, right? Everything after it is the price. And then there's wanting the life. That's organized around what follows the commitment. This is the day to day reality. This specific business, this specific model, every ordinary week and every hard month of the years after the signing. The vision extends to year two, to the Tuesday at 11 p.m. when the business is open and harder than the projection said it would be. And trust me, it gets hard at times. And when it gets there, the why is what holds. Not easily, not without fear, but most of the time it holds. And because the yes was built around the life and not the story, not the narrative, it holds. So here's the test. Can you describe the life you're choosing at its hardest, at its most ordinary, at the moment when the narrative or the story has worn off and the work is just the work and you still want it? not the highlight version, the version where the numbers are behind and the day to day life has kicked in, where there's a week where everything goes wrong. Can you sit inside that picture and honestly find the reason underneath it? If yes, you're choosing the life. You're choosing it with your eyes on it and your eyes wide open. If the vision gets blurry when the hard season comes and gets specific, that is worth knowing before the signature, not after. You see, I've seen people make both decisions. We're talking same brand, same numbers, same discovery process. A year later, they were living completely different experiences of the same business. The numbers didn't separate them, the process didn't separate them. It was this question that did. Do you want the life or do you want the decision? You get to choose. Now, I want to name something very specifically here. When you imagine this decision that you're making, the commitment being made, the evaluation being over, what is the primary feeling? Not the feeling about the life on the other side, but the feeling about the decision itself. If the primary feeling is relief, that matters more than most people realize. Because relief is about ending the evaluation, not about wanting the life that follows. And I get it. Anyone who has been in several month long evaluation process understands the exhaustion that comes along with it. I call it decision fatigue. The relief is real. And here's what I want you to understand about decision fatigue: the commitment doesn't end the uncertainty, it changes what you're uncertain about. The evaluation phase, uncertainty lifts. The year one uncertainty arrives. Different in texture, equally real. The person who wanted the life knew this going in. The person who wanted the decision, they tend to discover it inside of year one. So, when you imagine the commitment being made, is the primary feeling excitement about what you're moving toward or relief about what you're leaving? Both are real, and only one of them is a foundation worth building on. So here's a diagnostic for you. I've got 3 questions, and I want you to be honest with yourself, not necessarily with me. Number 1, why this? Not why ownership or why franchise. Why this? Why this specific franchise? Why this specific model? This specific business in this specific territory? If the answer is organized around the process because the numbers worked, or I like the broker, or discovery went well, that's worth examining. The process is built to move you toward a commitment. The broker's job is to move you toward a commitment. It's not built to tell you if this is the right commitment for you for where you specifically are. The answer that holds in year 2 is specific. Something about this model, the operational structure, the customer relationship, the type of work that it requires is genuinely aligned with how you work and what you are willing to carry. Second, why now? Not because I've been evaluating long enough and it's about time that I come to a decision. What has specifically aligned in your financial position, in your life circumstances, your capacity to make this the right moment? The answer that holds is condition based, not timeline based. If the primary answer is because I'm ready, I want to ask you, ready for what? specifically? Third, why me? I think this is the hardest one for most people to answer. It's an important one. Not why you're qualified. I think the FDD addresses that for the most part. Why are you specifically the right person for what this business will ask of you? What about your particular makeup, your skills, your tolerance for the specific difficulty this model produces, your capacity for the demands of year one that makes you the right fit? This isn't asking you to prove yourself, it's asking you to know yourself well enough and place yourself inside the life you're choosing. Not the narrative version, the actual one. If you can answer all three specifically, honestly, in a way that holds under the pressure of a hard week in year two, that is what clarity looks like at this stage. I want to tell you what clarity is not. It's not certainty. Certainty that it will work is not available before the commitment is made. If you are looking for that kind of certainty, you will not find it. I have never come across a person that made this kind of commitment and had full certainty. You will not know whether it will work until you are in it. That is not what clarity is. Clarity is also not the absence of fear. The fear that arrives when a commitment is real enough to feel, that fear is not a warning. I think it is a recognition. The decision has weight. And feeling that weight is evidence that you're paying attention. It is not relief. Clarity at this stage is this, is the ability to describe the life that you're choosing at its hardest and recognize that you still want it. An answer to why this, why now, and why me, that holds at 11 p.m. on Tuesday in year two. A commitment you're making because you want what follows it, not because you want to have just made the decision. So, if you're at this moment, if you've done the research, you've run the numbers, attended Discovery Day, and something still is making you pause in a way that you can't quite name, this is usually what it is. You're not missing information, not unresolved doubt about the opportunity itself. It's the question underneath almost every other question. Do you want the life or do you want the decision? That question deserves an honest answer before you make a commitment of this magnitude, because the commitment will not answer it for you. If something in this episode named what you've been carrying, our decision exposure review is where this conversation goes next. To map the actual exposure of the decision, we look at financial, operational, and personal exposure against the life you're about to commit to. This is independent analysis without a stake in whether you move forward. Not to validate the decision, but to make sure you're looking at the full picture before it's no longer possible to adjust. I want to invite you to go to www.dearmonday.co before the commitment, when the thinking still belongs entirely to you. Clarity before commitment. Last but not least, we've been with Aaron, who is at the threshold of this franchise commitment. We've also been with Allison at the edge of a career exit. Now we go back to Renee. Renee is our rebuilder, standing on ground she didn't choose. She has done the work. She has clarity on what she's lost, what she's learned, and what she won't accept in this next chapter. And now she's standing at a new edge, a new commitment, a new decision. And the question isn't whether she's capable, because she is. It's whether she's choosing from the right place. Episode 9. How do you know when you're ready to go? again. I'll see you there.